was like, what y'all want me to do with it? Man, you need to destroy that thing. I was like, okay, I can do that. I'll figure out when to do it. So the next day at practice, boom!
I'm Ben Flanagan with AL.com. Welcome to Beat Everyone, the AL.com Alabama football podcast. Folks, this is a special episode today. We're so excited about today's guest. He has a new book called Skull Session, Mastering the Mental Game in Sports, Work, and Life, written by him with Ivan Maisel. We all know him as Coach Yeah. He's an 8-time national championship winning strength and conditioning coach, special teams coach at Alabama and Georgia. Some fans obviously know him for his big booming voice and relentless attitude in the weight room, and how he has really transcended his own sport and his battle against addiction and raising awareness with his personal testimony. That journey was also recently chronicled in the AL.com documentary Whispers in the Weight Room. And now he is the head coach of the football team at the University of West Alabama. Coach Scott Cochran, welcome. Thanks so much for doing this.
Let's go, baby. Happy to be here.
Man, it's good to see you, good to talk to you, and you know your story is well documented now, but you're on a roll, and I just think that you're connecting with people in a way that is really unique and really helpful too. Coach, this book has been called your no holds barred account of rising to the top, falling hard, clawing your way back with faith, grit, unwavering belief that champions are built in the mind as well as on the field. And this book's also touted as the ultimate underdog story. And that word really stuck out to me because as somebody who's reached the top of your profession and had the amount of success that you've had coaching the game, working with future NFL stars, you're part of these programs that walk around with these targets on your back. What was it like to feel like the underdog again when it came to this new challenge in your life?
Man, I love the question. Whenever being at the places I've been, the key to sustaining success was to always flip the mindset, is to always be hunting, right? And never be the hunted, right? We always had that mindset. And when it came to recovery, for me, it was the complete opposite. I had to surrender. I had to just let go and let God, right? I had to say, you know what? He's carried me this far. Why would he stop carrying me now? And he's got me in this world, on this planet, in Livingston, Alabama, for a purpose. And so I'm gonna do my best to get the word out that recovery is real, and B, just try to help someone, whether they're listening right now, whether they're locked in, whether they have a family member. A lot of dealing with my wife, having to deal with me in full-time addiction. When I went to rehab, and I went publicly to rehab, no one brought my wife a casserole, right? No one brought my wife cookies. And I'm not complaining. She would never complain. It's not a complaint. It's just where society is when it comes to addiction. It was more like, whoa, I don't want to be around them because then maybe they'll find out my flaws. Instead of like, man, how can I help? And that's the difference. And so I know someone listening in probably has a family member that's might be deep in the hole, might be complete denial that they even have a problem, and they have a problem, and you don't know how to respond. And hopefully, after today's talk and reading the book, you'll have an idea, right? Maybe one step could help them and really help that person start making their way to recovery.
Yeah, Coach. I mean, how did your coaching mentality help you in this journey and struggle? Because the book is also described as a testament to the truth that no matter how many times you fall, you can rise again, you rise stronger, right? That sounds like something that you would tell players that you're trying to motivate in the weight room and on the field. This never give up, keep fighting spirit, push yourself to places you don't think you can go. Did that attitude and approach help guide you when you were overcoming your addiction?
Very much. Realizing that I had some awesome people around me, and being not taking the blessing from them and saying, "Hey, can you help me?" Right? Like to ask Coach Saban, to ask Coach Smart, "Can you help me?" Instead of me always doing for, trying to figure out, trying to do this for somebody else, being able to say, "Hey, can you help me?" Uh, and and I used to look at asking for help as such a weakness, right? And I just feel like it's one of the strongest things you can do, because for sure they could help, and they did. They were able to help tremendously. First of all, financially, Kirby kept me on contract. Coach Saban took the buyout off, from Alabama. So like those two, you work for somebody for so long, and then you develop a relationship with somebody that you work with, and then work for. And Kirby, you know, you forget the human side. You see it towards the players, but you forget when you're at work. And then just for me able to ask, "Hey, can you help me?" Really was really a cool thing to do that I was so honestly scared to death to do at first.
Yeah, well, on that note, you're in a business where it pays to be tough, right? Like that's a word you hear a lot. And you talk about toughness, mental toughness, physical toughness, a lot of tough guys in football at every level. I mean, that's what you want to project. You don't want to be weak. You don't want to look weak, be perceived that way by anyone. And what you and so many others have lived through, it really requires vulnerability, right? And you just said it, and you've said it before, that the toughest thing that you can do is raise your hand, say, I need help. Like, what would you say to other guys, people in that profession who struggle with asking for help? Like, how can they get there if they have trouble sort of jumping that hurdle?
I mean, I think it's just remember the blessing that you've always done for someone else. Don't take that from a friend, right? Because the amount of guilt that a lot of my friends still have, even though I've made amends, even though I've told them they had nothing to do with my addiction. They couldn't have prevented it. They couldn't have stopped it. The train was going. And if you would have gotten in the way or tried to stop it, I would have kicked you off my train. Um, you know, Ask for help because people really want to help, and they'd love to help their friend. They'd love to help their friend.
Coach, you're obviously a man of faith, and you've been very vocal about that. It's a big part of this for you. You've said that, when you let him in, you realized that he was in charge the whole time, right? And that you ask God for two things every day: to keep you sober, to let you help somebody. What was faith always important to you, or was it something you felt like you needed to rediscover on this journey?
Yeah, I definitely had to rediscover it. I'm born, raised Catholic. I'm still Catholic, and I'm strong in my Catholic faith. And so, it really happened the second time I went to rehab, and they gave me a drug test. And I can lie and I can say that I thought I was taking Percocets, but I knew that it was fentanyl. And so we got the drug test back, and it was all fentanyl. There was no Percocets in my system. And so that night, so basically, Chris Herron, I was at the Herron Wellness Center in Massachusetts. He said, "Bro, you got to stay. You can't just go back. This is not a 2-week deal like you planned. You need long term sobriety." Uh, and so that night, we had a meditation, right? And the meditation wasn't religious, it was just a meditation. Um, and sure enough, I'm trying to find some peace. Like, there's no way I can leave. I got to go back to Georgia and be a special teams coach. I got to do my job. I can't get fired. All this stuff. And all of a sudden, God just gave me this crazy peace. He just, I just felt like, okay, He's got me. It's almost like I could hear Him say, "I got you." Uh, and I called Kirby in the morning, told him, and God stepped in again. And Kirby's response was, "What can I do for your family?" In the middle of, look, this is 2021. We had just had two losses the year before during the COVID season. And, our backs are against the wall a little bit. It's not the Kirby Smart of today that has two national championships. It's before that. And for him to be able to say, "What can I do for you and your family?" Whoo! I know that was God. It's the only way that could happen.
Coach, I heard another person talking about their sobriety recently. He said that, he does the best he can in the shadow of his codependency and his addiction, but that, he has a path that he can walk with that. And it's not necessarily easy to live life sober, but it's better because you're in life, right? Like, then you just have to sort of like reckon with, your heart and your mind and your spirit, but it's obviously worth it. And anything that, he might have today, he can do it because he hit a point where he needed help and he got it, right? And you've also said that recovery is way better than any championship, any ring, or any pill that you've
Yeah.
ever been around. And on the surface, people who haven't lived through what you have, they might not understand that. But why is that the case?
Because you realize you're not alone. Um, the opposite of addiction is connection. Um, and so you realize you have, like, I was on the phone with three people that I have been in rehab with before today. Because today just happened to be a day. I don't know why. Today was just a tough day. I woke up this morning, everything was good, and my drive in was good. And then things just started coming at me. And I started, man, I'm feeling tight. I'm feeling like a little vulnerable here. So I pick up the phone, right? Most of the time I'll go to an AA meeting or an NA meeting, either any way I can find it, but that's not available 24/7 for me. Um, so I pick up the phone and I talk to three other people that are in the program. And all of a sudden it went from all this fear and all this junk, just the war in my own brain, right? The conversation that's going on in my brain that I can't stop, right? I pick up the phone and all of a sudden everything just starts to smoothen out. There's a peace that comes with it, right? And I'm helping them, but they're really helping me along the way. Um, so yeah, it is a very lonesome disease, but once you get and start talking about it, man, you start feeling better. You start doing things. And the recovery side is just, it's awesome. My kids come to me with questions that they would never talk to me about before.
Well, you've said something I found really profound, Coach. You said, my rings are not going to be on my tombstone. My family is going to be my legacy. I was able to get my family back, let them know who their dad is, let my wife know who her husband is. I mean, at that point, football just feels like an afterthought when you put it that way.
Yeah, I had to tell them that when they hired me that. I don't know if they like that, but they still hired me. So I told them that my priorities are in line, right? And if you want to see me at my best, those two things have to be in line, right? Number one is my recovery and my relationship with God, and then number two is my family. And you could put all of those together if you want as one, but those have to come first in order to me to have any kind of success at coaching.
Your family is clearly such a source of inspiration to you, and you've said that again, like you're trying your best to be the best husband and father that you can be. And your wife said too that you have so much to offer the world, and that maybe God gave you the voice that you have and this power that you have to project the way that you do and have done famously, but to be a voice for recovery, right? Do you feel that way? Do you feel like maybe this is what the voice was for?
Yeah, I mean, it's when you put it that way, it seems like a lot, uh, but the reality is, right? I know that people are struggling, right? The numbers that we get from fast for there from SAMHSA are not lies. There's 200 Americans dying a day from an accidental fentanyl overdose. They're not trying to die, right? They're not trying to be gone. This is not suicide. This is not, I want to overdose on purpose. This is, I happen to have an addiction that has got me wrapped up and I'm no longer there for my family. And that hits more than 200 people a day because there's family members involved, and their guilt comes out, right? Their guilt of, man, I wish I could have done more for that person, right? So it's just, man, I want to be able to help the next person. I don't know how that looks every day, but I'm gonna keep having conversations. Hopefully, my book helps some people. That's the key to all of this.
You shared your story again in so many places, including football programs like Texas and Clemson, Oregon, other schools. What have those experiences been like talking to young people? And you've worked with young people for your entire career, but
Right?
athletes who can maybe relate to your story.
Yeah, I think I have a really cool gift of being able to tap into 18 to 25. I'm able to kind of get on their level and kind of hear them instead of talk at them. Kind of listen first. So when I had those conversations, a lot of players got my number because I gave it to them, and they've reached out. And some of them it was for themselves, but a lot of them it was for a mom or an uncle or a brother, and we're able to help a lot of them, get them in treatment, get them some help, uh, get them in some stability around them, teach them some things, right? Uh, because I have some, because of my nonprofit, I was able for a full year to go around the entire country and see rehabs, right? See what, hey, this is what we do at this rehab. This is what we do at this rehab. Well, I don't believe in that, but I bet you that could work for somebody else, right? Like certain things I personally don't believe in, but that doesn't mean that their recovery is wrong, right? Like if you are living a life that's better than addiction, man, you're winning. You're winning. I don't care if you have to use any kind of tool a doctor gives you. I don't. Like I you have to handle your sobriety in your way. And if you're working a program, you're feeling the joy, the love, you're enjoying life, you're back in the mix. It's a great thing.
Well, and now at West Alabama, I mean, what is this program right now as you prepare to kick off August 30th against Fort Valley State at Legion Field in Birmingham? Like, what's the program right now? What do you want it to be?
I'm setting the culture. I do what I do best. I'm making sure that the players are thinking a certain type of way. Um, I have great coordinators. My offensive coordinator, Carmen Felix, is his 6th year here. Steve Cease is my defensive coordinator. It's his ninth season here. Thomas Fletcher played for us at Alabama and was at Florida, was at Alabama as a GA. So my coordinators are really good, and I'm going to lean on them to make sure that the plays are executed and all that stuff. But what I'm going to do is handle what they can't and make sure the culture's straight. So I'm hoping to see that the team is bought in every day. They seem to. Uh, and I'm excited to see how they respond when they get hit in the mouth. I really am. I'm excited to see how we respond. Do we cave in? Do we start pointing fingers? Or, do we start crying to the referee? Or do we stand up tall and play the next play? Like that's what I'm trying to teach them, you know?
Right, that's how you learn, right? You get punched
Right.
in the mouth. How do you respond to adversity, right? We've heard that before. I know
Right.
that. And, I know Alabama fans in particular are going to be really eager to see you coach and see how your players do, and are going to be following West Alabama this year. Coach, this is an Alabama football podcast, so I have a couple of Alabama football questions, if you don't mind.
Of course. Of course.
So,
I expect it, baby.
Coach, why did it work so well with Nick Saban? Everybody knows what his personality is, right? He's got a sense of humor. We all know that. We've seen the other side of Nick Saban, but he's obviously really serious. He's really intense. He wants things done a certain way. And then here you are, this super loud, really vibrant guy. Y'all seem like opposites in so many ways on paper, but it's clear that y'all have the same standard to meet the same goals. And he understood like the unique qualities and talent that you may have had in terms of connecting with young people, like you said. Why do you think Coach Saban knew that you, Scott Cochran, were a good fit for what he wanted to do?
Man, I think it's through trial and error almost. I worked for him. I was a volunteer at LSU, then a graduate assistant, then an assistant. Um, I think he got to see me kind of grow up, and then he hired me again at Alabama when I was 27. And the first 2 years, I felt like it was a boot camp, right? Like he was training me to learn his standard, to learn the way he wants it exactly done. I had an idea from seeing Tommy Moffitt do it at LSU, but I felt like it was a boot camp mentality. And that's why he has so much success, is because I never had to worry about what the offensive coordinator was doing, what the wide receiver coach was doing. I didn't have to worry about those guys because Coach Saban had a standard for them also. So everyone could do their job, bring their best to their job, and not worry about all the other stuff, right? Not worry about all the different things that are going on around. If they just focus on their job, he's going to make sure they do a good job.
Coach, did you have a green light to pretty much do what you do at all times? Like when Saban was in the room, when he wasn't out of the room, like again, like you knew he knows you, he hired you, he knows what you're good at. But how did you read the room when it came to him and his coaching style and his personality to know I got to turn it up now, I got to connect with these guys now, even when Saban is watching?
In my mind, I was just another voice for him. So if I knew the message before he gave the message, I could teach the players the message over and over and over again. It's like firing the perfect bullet, right? You're going to fire that bullet and it's going to hit some kids dead and they're going to catch it right away. But then other kids are going to kind of be like, I don't know if I can buy into that, so to speak. And my job was to fire that same bullet just a little different way, a little different angle, a little maybe a different gun. You know what I mean? Like something different with the same message, so that everyone was buying in to the same exact thing that Coach Saban wanted.
Yeah, and I can't really picture a moment where he's like, "Coach, you got to tone it down a little bit," right? that never you never had that conversation with Nick Saban, did you?
No.
I don't think so. But I am curious. I am curious. What was your job on game days in Tuscaloosa? Like we've seen footage. We haven't seen everything of like you in the weight room and like obviously on game days you're on the jumbotron and people can hear you. But we saw you on the sideline. You're hyping everybody up. You're jumping up and down, holding up the fours, motivating these guys to be great. But when it was time to like really rock and roll, like what did you want to accomplish on game days?
I just wanted to get the guys to look me in the eyes when they failed, right? That was the hardest thing, right? When you make a mistake, when you drop a ball, when you don't get to the quarterback, when they score a touchdown, something, things happen in the game. And I always had a good relationship with the quarterbacks because I could always kind of get them centered back in, get them centered back to what's important now. But that's what I always looked for, was look for the crack, right? Where am I going to be needed, on this field? What is my purpose? My purpose is to keep the main thing, is that's keeping them locked into the moment, forget the last play and let's go to the next one. So that was my whole process, and that was my job.
You said the quarterbacks. Could any of them lift, Coach? Were there any good lifters at quarterback? Who was the best lifter at quarterback?
I mean, Jalen Hurts probably had the best squat I've ever seen. AJ McCarron went from skin and bone to jacked and could lift some heavy weight. Greg McElroy came from a really good program in Texas. So he was pretty strong when he walked in. He just got stronger because he watched John Parker Wilson. And John Parker Wilson came from Hoover, so he had a good program. Tua had never really lifted before, but if you ever seen his behind, huge.
Big calves on Tua too,
yes,
right? Like
big,
lower body, yeah.
Lower body. Big Goose had a big lower body, so we had to get that strong. So you could stay strong in the pocket. Mac Jones was skin and bone, but he could sling the hell out of it. So I had to get he was a lot like AJ McCarron. I had to get his lower body strong first. But yeah, those guys could lift for sure.
Put him on the quarterback program. I'd be interested to see what that looks like on paper. Okay.
Heavy legs.
Okay.
Legs.
All right, good to know. Yeah, we've seen Jalen Hurts, what he can do. Obviously, the tush push. That Scott Cochran deserves a little bit of credit there too. I think with the tush push. Take all you can
Is it
get,
because
man.
wait, hold up, because of Landon Dickerson? Who else? Who else is on that O line? I'm sure I've got
Lane
others. There's so
Johnson,
many.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's
These
so
these
many.
guys beasts. Well, I'm always curious about this too. We all saw, and we all know this story about what happened to that second place trophy, Coach Cochran,
Mm.
right? Like we've seen the clip; it went viral. But I am curious from your perspective because we didn't see everything. What led to that moment, and what was the reaction in the room when you did it?
So we had obviously just played Clemson for the Final Four and beat them, and we had to play for the national championship, and our guys were just tired. They were just beat up. I know tired is not the word we use, but they were just, you could see it. And we had 10 days to prepare, or 9 days to prepare for the game. And I was like, okay, maybe we'll get it back tomorrow. Maybe we'll get it back tomorrow. But it was Wednesday or Tuesday of game week, and I didn't think we were back. I felt like we were still running in mud. Um, and so I just knew it was mental, right? It was the mental length of a season. Like it's going to hit everybody. Um, and so I had some leadership guys in my room, and I was like trying to juice them up and talk to them. And at the end of the conversation, they looked over and they said, "Hey, what are we going to do with that?" And they were pointed at the runner-up trophy. And I was like, "I don't know. What are we supposed to do with it?" And they're like, "Well, we kind of just, we just beat Clemson. They beat us. That's why they gave it to us." I was like, "Okay." I was like, "What y'all want me to do with it?" "Man, you need to destroy that thing." I was like, "Okay, I can do that. I'll figure out when to do it." So the next day at practice, boom! I was going to do it on the practice field. Thank God, because I was not expecting it to just destroy into 1,000 pieces. Like it just like glass everywhere. So thank God I did it in the locker room and not on the field, because we would have had to move practice.
Man, well, then what happened, right? I mean, it obviously worked.
Yeah, I hope so. I don't know. Georgia hit us pretty hard early in that game.
Well, we just got done with a series, the 15 best Alabama football games of the last 25 years, and that Georgia National Championship was number one on the
Yeah.
list, and that was a really fun one to revisit. This is a good transition, though, Coach, because my last thing for you here, you transitioned. You go from Alabama to Georgia, right? And we know how college football and sports works. I mean, you go from job to job sometimes. It's just whatever is right for your situation and your circumstance, and it happens. But what was it like for you? You'd spent so much time at Alabama with Nick Saban, and then suddenly the next year you're competing against them. I mean, that had to be exciting because it's a new chapter, but it had to be a little strange too, I would think.
That's when my addiction really took a turn. I thought that leaving Alabama, I wouldn't, it all started with migraines. You know, I wouldn't have to yell as much being a special teams coordinator. I wouldn't have groups all day, every day, and have to yell over music. Um, so I thought that going there, that would change, but it got really worse. And I really had no excuse, because I wasn't yelling as much. That's when I knew I was a full blown addict. But the coolest, something that I will never forget, we I was at Georgia and we came to Alabama to play in the COVID year. And after the game, I was on the field for like 20 extra minutes shaking hands with Alabama players. We just lost. Georgia just lost. That was upsetting. Uh, but to shake hands with those guys afterwards was really cool for me. That was a cool moment.
I bet. Well, y'all certainly figured it out the next couple of years at Georgia and had a little bit of success there too. It seems to follow
And I
you.
think, and honestly, that's one of the things we brought skull sessions to Georgia. And that's why I wrote this book, because I was like, man, this is the secret ingredients. This is the secret that all these teams, all these organizations, they're looking for that edge. That what's the thing that this? What are we missing? Right? We're having success. We're doing good, but we're not at the level that we really want to be at. And we started doing skull sessions And that's why I wrote the book, because I was like, you know what, this is an edge, and it just lines up with recovery, you know.
Well, from Center Street and Hatchet Book Group, this book is called Skull Session, Mastering the Mental Game in Sports, Work, and Life, written by Scott Cochran with Ivan Mazel. Coach Cochran, your story is amazing. We're so glad that you shared it with us and on so many other platforms. It's doing a lot of good. We're huge fans of yours. We wish you the best of luck this season at West Alabama and with everything else in your life. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, our thanks to Scott Cochran, head coach of the University of West Alabama. They kick off August 30th at Legion Field in Birmingham. Really awesome conversation. We're big fans of that guy, and we wish him well, certainly. You can find Beat Everyone wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, everywhere else. And I want to thank Matt Scalisi for producing this podcast, and thank you for listening and watching. Until next time, I'm Ben Flanagan with AL.com.